Chapter 6 Picture Album. Merlin was gone, and he went down to report to King Arthur under Morgan's order. Hey, although Merlin is an old bastard, he will never talk nonsense. Since he agreed, then he will finish it well. A triumphant expression appeared on Morgan's face. She wanted to make her father value herself more, regardless of how true Lot said in his heart. My own sister, no matter whether it exists or not, as long as he can make the country more prosperous, then he must be the best candidate for Camelot's next king. These are all thanks to Lot, Morgan said softly. If it weren't for Lot, he wouldn't know this way to help Camelot. At the same time, I didn't know that I still had a younger sister, and if I really met at that time, I wouldn't be at a loss. It's a pity, because the heartfelt can only be heard 3 times a day. Today's 3 times have been used up. I have no way to inquire about my sister. Speaking of Lot, Morgan thought of another thing. What was his first thought when he saw me this morning? Do you want to give me something? Some things. He is still embarrassed. What is that? I'm curious. With this thought in his mind, Morgan quietly touched Lot's tent. In the process of walking, she gently performed magic, so that the soldiers around had no way to discover her existence, although it is better for a girl to spy on a man than a man to spy on a girl. However, it would be shameful enough to be discovered. Morgan knew that if he had done this, his position in the minds of those soldiers would plummet. I am your mistress. At the same time, he is the king of Camelot and even Britain in the future. This kind of black history should never exist. Thinking like this, Morgan quietly came to the side of Lot's tent. See what he is doing. Morgan saw Lot packing, and in his hand, he was holding a booklet about the length of his forearm. It looks very beautiful. Is this his gift to me? Morgan thought in his heart. She looked carefully, and then she saw the cover of the booklet clearly. Okay, it is painting. Wait, why does the face in this painting look so familiar? Morgan looked at it a few times. Then, I can see who the painting is. The protagonist is myself. Morgan could not help appearing beside Lot. What are you? She asked Lot. Morgan appeared suddenly, and Lot was taken aback. Why are you here? He immediately put the booklet in his hand behind him, and then said to Morgan in a panic, Damn, how did she appear? Last night, what Lot fished out was just a picture album. However, the protagonist in that album is Morgan. To be precise, it is the image of Morgan in the 2nd dimension. From Station P, a picture book of Morgan's appearance printed on Station P where the picture was drawn. The production is still very exquisite. But when he got the picture album, Lot fell into a state of not knowing what to do with it. Destroy it. This is really a pity. And if you stay, this is not easy to hide. Sleeping with my wife every day, secretly hiding his wife's picture album, the difficulty is not ordinary. Can't you give it to Morgan? But, although the picture album is a normal picture album, but the normal direction on the P station, you know all you know, as long as there is no missing point, it is considered normal. There are a lot of Morgans posing seductively above. If this is shown to her, she must be angry. So Lot has been in a state of entanglement just now, but now it seems that he doesn't need to struggle anymore. When I was reading the book, Morgan had already caught him. Seeing Lot's flustered look, Morgan's earlier shame disappeared. Forget it, I am the wife of this guy. It is normal to draw my wife's picture album and keep it on me. Do you have pictures on this booklet? Morgan thought for a while, then asked Lot. Oh, yes, Liu Feng said. Well, I got it. A smile appeared at the corner of Morgan's mouth. Lot was a little puzzled looking at her smile. Why is she happy? As for why Morgan is happy, of course it's very simple. If you look at the level of painting on that booklet, if you draw a whole picture, it definitely can't be done overnight. Then, at least it proves that he has been secretly paying attention to me for a long time. And look at his fluster. The expression is really interesting. Morgan thought in his heart. She was originally Lot's fiancé. Moreover, Lot is the kind of extraordinarily handsome man. Coupled with the things in his mind, Morgan had an initial good impression. This kind of affection made Morgan not only dislike Lot's painting of his own. On the contrary, she also felt the sweetness of being valued. Facts have proved that some things still depend on the face. Lot and Morgan set off. Merlin also joined King Yaozef within a few days. In addition, he fully told King Arthur of Morgan's suggestions. I even added some of my own supplementary suggestions on these aspects, although these will greatly interfere with the predictions I made. But Merlin was not the kind of person who would do everything in order to defend his predictions. He prefers that someone can really get rid of these. After listening to these suggestions, King Arthur looked a little surprised. You said, this is the advice my daughter gave me? He asked Merlin. Well, of course. Merlin nodded slightly. This is really an excellent suggestion. The prerequisite for making the army effective is to make the peasants rich. We must immediately proceed with this matter. King Arthur thought for a while, and then said to Merlin, well, of course this is possible. Most of what we paid was official positions, and the nobles would not have too much objection. King Arthur paced around a few times. Then, looking at Merlin, he said, it seems that this daughter of mine also has a strong talent for ruling the country. Merlin, did you say that the decision I made before was wrong? Chapter 7 Lot is a slutty dog 4K. This is a decision made by you, Your Majesty. I have no right to criticize these. I can only say that if one of my disciples is allowed to become the king, the situation will develop according to my prophecy. But if your majesty, you change if you have any ideas, I am not sure about this future. Maybe it will be better. Of course, it may be worse and not necessarily. Merlin didn't even think about King Yozef's question, and directly replied like this. This is a multiple choice question. Maybe Morgan will bring Britain to a more prosperous place, but it is also possible that because of her behavior, Britain will move into a greater abyss. No one can tell this kind of thing clearly. After all, being able does not mean that you will be able to do well. Even if the direction is wrong, then the mistakes made are actually more outrageous than the incompetent. This also caused King Yozef to fall into a state of entanglement. He pondered for a while, and then said to Merlin, "Forget it, this matter can be waited for a while. My body won't die soon. Now we have to do it first. Start the implementation of Morgan's suggestions. Reward farming and war, so that farmers have a love for farming, and soldiers are enthusiastic about war." Rewarding farming, if it were in the Roman Empire on the European continent, it would not work. After all, the lord system over there is already deeply ingrained. However, on Camelot's side, most of the lords are emerging lords, and the land is not too much, and there are still a large number of self-cultivating farmers. If these people start farming voluntarily, then Camelot's grain production will increase a lot. This point, Merlin and King Arthur have said, and King Yowser also knows this clearly. I will get people to execute. Hearing Merlin's satisfying words, King Yowser smiled happily. Okay, let's prepare now. I will also set out to attend my daughter's wedding ceremony, he said to Merlin. Because the relationship between him and Lot belonged to the relationship between the big brother and the younger brother, Lot was not yet a vassal in the full sense. Therefore, the place of marriage is still in Lot's territory. Well, if you use the words of Lot's motherland in the previous life, this King User is marrying the Princess Lot, not Lot is coming to Princess Shang. But this is his own biological daughter, so it is impossible for King Yozef not to attend the wedding ceremony. Therefore, he asked Morgan to go there to prepare first, and he waited until the formal wedding ceremony to pass. Well, it's almost time to leave now. At that time, I will take a closer look at my daughter and future son-in-law. That's right. When he was about to leave, King Uther remembered something and said to Merlin, "This time remember to invite some noble lords to come with you." "Okay, I got it." Merlin knew what King Arthur was thinking, and smiled and nodded. At this moment, Lot and Morgan's group also returned to Lot's territory. Orkney County is mainly an archipelago on the sea. After Lot crossed over, he used some methods to expand his territory to a part of the land. But Lot's castle was also built on the plain not far from the sea. The sea breeze is blowing, bringing a little smell. Looking into the distance, you can see the endless sea. If you look at it at first glance, someone who doesn't know will definitely feel pleasing to the eye. But as far as Lot and Morgan are concerned, there are not only various beautiful scenery in the distance of this sea, but also enemies. Both the Roman Empire and those from Northern Europe are their enemies. In fact, it is almost the same as Vortigern and his like. Lot and Morgan rode on their horses and walked at the forefront of the team. Lot squinted his eyes and looked ahead, then turned his head and said to Morgan, "Soon, we will be at my castle. Then, Morgan, you can have a good rest." As he said this, there was unstoppable excitement in his eyes, and the reason he was so excited was that Morgan was almost eavesdropping. "Hey, it's finally almost here. I don't know how the butler has decorated the castle. I have asked him to prepare before. When you are ready, hurry up to get married." Having been single for more than 40 years, it is really a joy to marry a cute girl like Morgan. For so many years, I am incompatible with the painting styles around me. In the first few years of the journey, I felt that I was the male lead of Shuo Comics and went directly to JoJo's studio. Fortunately, Mrs. Morgan's appearance is really cute. As for the Traversers, you said that they were in their 20s and teenagers in this life, and the mental age of 40 years is nonsense. However, if you say it's a virgin time, it's a real deal. You are less than 20 years old this year. Where did you come from for more than 40 years? Did you treat 1 year as 2 years? Morgan didn't know about this kind of thing. She just regarded Lot's thoughts as anxious. As for the other things like JoJo, she didn't understand it all, but she was too embarrassed to ask. During the journey with Lot, as the time between her and Lot got longer and longer, she felt that she could not only hear Lot's heartfelt voice 3 times a day, and when he was excited, some of his heartfelt voices would enter her ears unconsciously. These heartfelt voices are not something that I can refuse. It is as if they are speaking, and they reach my ears. What he said made me so angry. There are bad thoughts in my heart. Hateful. I can't show it yet. These are the thoughts in his heart, and they have not been expressed on the outside. How do you talk about him? There is no reason for revenge. Could it be that I can't even think about others? I can't do it. Hearing his words every day, I am really helpless. Today's thinking is okay. The previous words are even more shy, especially the first few days. During those few days, he painted his own album, but he didn't take it away. Lot kept it in his hand. He hasn't watched it less. Moreover, his thinking ability is also extremely strong, and he can imagine the painting in front of him. This suit is really good at playing. Well, this posture, excitement, a maid outfit, and black silk. It looks so exciting. Black silk, white silk, knee-high socks, long leg socks, footstep socks. Well, although Morgan is a tall girl type. However, this kind of JK student outfit with white silk is actually pretty good. When I have a chance in the future, I must task those maids to make a suit of this kind and put on Morgan. Between husband and wife, changing clothes is a very good entertainment. These words made Morgan feel that his married life might not be so peaceful. Fortunately, there were not many pages in those albums. After a few days, Lot looked at it. Finally, Morgan would not hear Lot's reveries about himself from time to time. King Lot, under his handsome appearance, that's a dog. Morgan cursed secretly in his heart. But Morgan remembered that he overheard his voice at first. Well, this dog may have extremely high wisdom in his heart. Resourceful dog? Well, look at his face again. Good looking, resourceful dog. Well, everything else can be said to be perfect except for having a bigger for oneself. But thinking of this, she remembered about her sister again. After several inquiries, she didn't hear Lotta's voice about her sister. How is it? Why did Camelot fall into my sister's hands instead of mine? What is it? Well, Morgan looked at Lot carefully. His mouth pouted. It seemed very unhappy. Lot saw Morgan's expression at this moment and asked, "What's wrong, Morgan? Are you unhappy?" Morgan blinked, and then replied to Lot, "Nothing, I'm just looking forward to what the castle we will live together in the future will be like. Don't worry, you will be satisfied." Lot said immediately after hearing Morgan's words, "Hey, I have been through so many years now. As a traverser, how can you not renovate the house you live in? Especially since I still have a plug-in. At least it is not too difficult to make my life better." Now his castle can be said to be the only one in the world. I believe Morgan will be satisfied after seeing it. Looking at Lot's expression, Morgan also showed some interest. Although she said that just now, Morgan was just embarrassed to say that in fact, Lot and his words were heard clearly by himself. In fact, she was not really looking forward to the castle. Compared with Camelot, this Orkney is in a remote country. Even if Lot is a wizard of heaven, he can't make the castle much better. Moreover, he also has extremely high opinions on politics. Such people with extremely high political opinions will not be so focused on ordinary life. Therefore, Morgan has no expectations for his own house. Now that this expression appeared on Lot's face, it seemed that he was very confident in his castle. Well, it seems I can still meet some surprises. Morgan looked at Lot with this expression. With this feeling, she began to quietly observe the surrounding environment. Looking over quietly, the things here surprised her a little. Here, everything around is much better than before. Although it is not far from the sea, the amount of farmland is not few. Tenmo is vertical and horizontal, and sometimes many farmers are farming. This reclamation effort is much greater than Camelot. In Camelot's fields, many places were not cultivated. She couldn't help looking at Lot. Well, it looks really good. Even here, my instinct in the DNA at that moment has not been lost. Leading the farmers to get rich together, I did nothing wrong. HMPH. Tell the farmers that they belong to themselves as long as the land is reclaimed. At the same time, they also promised tax exemption for 5 years. If this is done, which farmers will not work hard to cultivate? Well, I next ordered the staff to prepare more loans for farmers. This time the interest rate will be lower or interest-free directly. When it is time to cultivate, all farmers have the ability to buy farm tools and seeds. These are the voices of Lot. Morgan blinked after hearing it. What's this? Is Lot a prodigal? Did he spend the money like this? In order to make money, didn't the lords always lend money to the farmers at high prices? Such low interest or even interest-free borrowing? What else can you earn? Morgan didn't understand, so she thought for a while and asked Lot, these farmers seem to live a much happier life than people in other places. Well, I am also a qualified lord anyhow. Lot smiled as he listened. Nonsense, you don't look at how low the moral standards of your other lords really are. Compared with other lords, I can be regarded as the pinnacle of morality. Those guys, their heads are full of exploitation. Their heads are full of exploitation. In addition to making money and engaging in women, what else is going on? These guys only know how to scrape meat on poor people's legs and fish for exhaustion, and they don't understand any sustainable principles. Only after the people have been enriched will the entire territory become wealthy. To expect those lords to show kindness, it is better to expect them to hang themselves. Really, fortunately Morgan, you are not a king. If you are a king, the ethics of your lords can make you crazy. Fortunately, we will guard the small place when the time comes, and it will be fine to see how your sister is utterly devastated. Morgan once again saw the difference between Lotna and the other lords in Britain. Moreover, it also makes their country more prosperous than those around them. If this experience is pushed to the entire Camelot, then Camelot will become more prosperous. When the time comes, after the country's strength becomes stronger, how could the humble King Vuta be our opponent? He defeated the father king back then, and I will defeat him completely when that time comes. And it depends on me to learn more knowledge from Lot. You. It's just that. What do you mean by the last words of Luke? Lot? I won't be the king of Camelot. HMPH. I will slap you in the face when I come, and I will let you know my abilities when that time comes. Morgan remembered his happy expression after he took Lot's hand and became the ruler of Britain in the future. The corners of Morgan's mouth couldn't help but turn up. Lot looked at her with this expression, wondering in his heart. What I said, why is she so proud? Chapter 8 Come and Fight With Me. 4K. After watching the farmers for a while, Lot, Morgan and others continued to move forward, and along the way, Morgan finally saw Lot Stanzong Wizard. With lush crops on the fields and prosperous business in the town, Morgan would smile unconsciously on the faces of civilians who walked by in the town. It seems that their lives are very comfortable, not at all like civilians in other places on the British Isles. To be precise, compared with ordinary people in Orkney, people in other places can only be described as poor. The life gap between the two parties is really too big. So, is Lot actually the kind of person who strikes at his nobles? Morgan thought this way. Then, after she saw the nobles, she knew how wrong her thoughts were. These nobles, everyone travels in costumes of BMWs, and many of them seem to be upstarts. But although they all despise the nouveau riche, saying that they have no education. However, at the same time they are not educated, they are really rich. Morgan now felt that he was the girl who walked from the country to the city. She somewhat wanted to ask Lot. At this moment, she saw Lot was holding a book in her hand and was reading with gusto. Well, Lot still loves reading. What are you looking at? Morgan thought in his heart. Then, she saw that the writing on it was not what she knew, but some square characters. What are these? I can't understand. Morgan looked at Lot subconsciously. Abin's high school grades are not ideal. She heard what Lot was reading. After listening for a while, her face instantly turned red. What are these? Looking at Lot, who was lying on horseback, his face was serious, as if he was reading some wonderful military book, but he was actually reading that kind of book. Morgan watched Lot's movement, stretched out his white palm, and took the book in Lot's hand in one hand. Lot was unprepared. Morgan took his treasure in his hands, and then looked at Morgan with a dazed expression on his face. What's wrong? Looking at his confused expression, Morgan glared at him and said, Lot, you are riding a horse, so don't read a book. I don't want to wait until you fall under the horse to become a lame man. Isn't this a bit boring in the process of walking? Okay, I just don't watch it. Lot said with a smile. Seeing Liu in front of his fiancée, this matter doesn't make much sense. Fortunately, this Morgan can't read Chinese, so he doesn't have to worry about being embarrassed in front of her. Well, you need to pay attention to it in the future. Can't be caught anymore. Lot thought in his heart. Looking at him with a relieved expression, Morgan could guess a general idea even if he didn't see what he was thinking. This guy, do you think I can't read this book? Yes, I can't read this book. But, I can understand you. That's enough. Lot, you scumbag. If you put all your ingenuity on business, it would be great. It's okay to read these books, but it is very detrimental to your own physical and mental health. Now that I am by your side, you have no hope of seeing these in the future. Besides, what's the point of reading a book? You see how good I am. But on the surface, she still said to Lot indifferently, in the future, don't do this dangerous thing again. Okay, all right. Liu nodded, but in his heart, he felt a sense in the dark. Since then, I can no longer see these things. Woo, I finally caught it. There was a frustrated expression on his face. Seeing such a frustrated expression on his face, Morgan couldn't help but soften. It seems normal for a normal teenager to be curious at this time. Well, let him watch it for a while. Looking at the face with red lips and white teeth, Morgan thought in his heart. Then she immediately realized that something was wrong. Why do you want to watch? Am I not his fiancé? How can I be so much better than those books? The group continued to set off. Soon came the castle in Oakley County. Okay, my castle is in front. Standing in front of his castle, Lot said to Morgan. At the same time, there was a hint of excitement on his face. Following his gaze, Morgan also looked at the castle. I want to see how good this place is. Well, the castle is very new. They all seem to have been constructed recently. The main body of the castle is about 15 meters high and there are many windows. Looks like that. Although from the outside, these are indeed good. But it looks like that. It's good. But it's not like I haven't seen it before. It has to be said that Morgan looked at the dense fields, the prosperous commercial towns, and the fresh-clothed horses of the nobles before, and his expectations for Lot became very high. As a result, I waited until now to see the real castle, but this was the result. It's like, every day someone says that his child is the number one in the city, but when you later filled in the volunteers, they found that he only filled in the ordinary 985. Good, but not so good. Morgan had already forgotten at this time. When she set off, she thought she was going to marry to the countryside, or even to the tribe, to live a life of rumor and blood. It can only be said that Lot made Morgan's expectations of him become very high. She looked at Lot to see what he was thinking. Finally arrived at home. Sure enough, as an otaku, it is too much to let myself go everywhere. I'll stay at home honestly in the future. Well, after entering, Morgan will be very satisfied with this. Okay? Hearing Lot's thoughts, Morgan showed a puzzled expression. Is there anything else in it? Also, did you just say that you will never go out? You are too lazy. Your ambitions are not limited to this little Orkney, right? If you just stay here, you ingenuity. It would be too wasteful. I tell you, as my husband, you can't be so lazy. In the future, we will rule Camelot with me. and then unite Britain. Even in the future, we will attack the European continent and no longer be confined to this island. I won't allow you to fish. Come and fight with me. Morgan thought so. Lot had dismounted, and reached out and took Morgan's hand. Go, Morgan, let's go in. Okay. Morgan put his hand in Lot's. This series of actions made both her and Lot feel as if they were overcharged. At this moment, two people finally remembered one thing. That is, neither of them had touched before. This? Morgan glanced at Lot's face, then rolled over lightly. Let's see what it looks like inside. She smiled and said to Lot, Mom, this Morgan is so cute. Seeing Morgan like this, Lot yelled in his heart, and one sentence was clearly heard by Morgan. She was still very happy for his praise. Then, after the hard work of their men, the two people opened the gate of the castle. After the two walked in, they heard Chi-Chi's shouts immediately. Welcome to your majesty, Lot, they said in unison. Morgan looked around and saw the maids and footmen standing in line, and on their bodies, they also wore uniforms. That Gong-Yi young master was what they shouted. It looks absolutely well trained. Lot glanced at these servants and nodded in approval. But at the same time I have some regrets in my heart. Alas, everything else is fine. The painting style of these maids and male servants is too rough. It is estimated that if someone crosses from the JoJo set, they can be regarded as beautiful. After several years, I can only make them cleaner. Anyway, with my unremitting efforts now, the people in the territory can eat enough. At that time, the appearance of our territory will definitely improve significantly. Morgan thought about the level of these people, and at this moment, he heard a neat shout, Welcome to the Queen. I was a princess a few days ago, but today I am a queen. Hearing these maids say this, Morgan also felt a little absurd, but she didn't forget her thoughts. See what Lot's castle looks like. These simple maid training is not enough. She then looked at it, and, what are these? In Morgan's eyes, it was supposed to be a castle that could only be illuminated by candlelight. But it turned out to be all the rays of the sun at this moment. Looking at the ground, even on the seashore, under the continuous erosion of the sea breeze, the ground did not show any signs of dampness. Also, there is no peculiar smell in the castle. You know, even her father's castle has a lot of horses, and the taste of this season is actually very unpleasant. In Lot's case, there is nothing at all. Looking at the ground a little bit, Morgan found that all the ground was made of fluffy carpets. Morgan also glanced at other places. The staircase is on one side, and the spiral staircase. Morgan is the first time I have seen it. In the living room, she saw a mirror as tall as a person. She opened her mouth in surprise. This thing should be very expensive, right? No, it shouldn't be a question of expensiveness anymore. You can't buy such a big mirror anywhere. How did he do it? Is it magic? She has used magic, but can clearly know what is going on in this castle. Then, there is no trace of magic left, and the things done have nothing to do with magic. These are true? Morgan couldn't believe his eyes. Then, she looked at Lot with her eyes, hoping to see his explanation in her heart. It looks like Morgan will be surprised. Hey, I have made a lot of money these years. As an otaku, he will not spend the money before and after he earns it. Instead, he will prepare all the money and buy according to his own preferences. Well, there are still a lot of fun things in the castle that have not been worked out. I hope she won't be addicted to these things then. Damn it, didn't you say nothing? When I showed a surprised expression, you actually bragged to me in your heart, instead of trying to introduce me. Angry, my old lady is angry. Also, your last sentence is not to expect me to be addicted to games but to make me really addicted to games. Do you think I will be like you? Me, I am very ambitious. It is different from someone like you who has no pursuit of life. Morgan felt a little strange. Listening to Lot's heart, he would only think that he was an ordinary aristocratic teenager who didn't want to move at all, just thinking about eating, drinking and having fun every day. However, his behavior in his territory made Orkney a completely different place from other places. He can only say that he is a bit lazy. But don't worry about sex. With my coming this time, I will never let go of your ingenuity. But I have to let you do something. Laughter. With me, there is absolutely no way to fish. Morgan thought of his pride and smiled brighter. Lot shuddered involuntarily. He hurriedly said to Morgan, who was looking around, Let's go to dinner. I have asked the chef to prepare our specialties. You can try it. It is said that I caught a British cookbook in the long river of time. As a result, he thought it was huge, and in his hands, there were only a few pages left in the book. And I took a look with confidence. All of these turned out to be complete. The first page, fish and chips. On the second page, fried fish with French fries. The third page, fried fish. The fourth page, French fries. By the end of the page, it is finally not fish and chips. Well, look up at the stars. Thinking of the dark history, Lot couldn't help but shiver. Fortunately, he still had cooking skills before crossing, so that he would not starve to death. So, let's prepare to eat the food I ordered. I hope you like the special food here. Lot looked at Morgan and said, Yeah, as long as it's not that red crop, it can be too spicy. Morgan nodded and made a request. Well, don't worry, I certainly won't do this kind of thing. Lot smiled and nodded. Morgan doesn't like spicy food, of course Lot won't do it. Even if it was a joke, she would not cook a table of spicy dishes for her. Just kidding. It's only when both parties laugh. If only one side is happy, it is just a prank. It's okay to play pranks on my wife. Then this person is a bit too cruel. Chapter 9 Dinner. First more. Immediately, we can have dinner. Lot sat at the dining table and said, looking at Morgan, who was sitting on his left hand with an expression of expectation. The nobles of this era always have a long table because they want to hold banquets. But at this table, only Lot and Morgan were eating. Very good already. At least, there will be 2 people eating in the future, so I don't need to be lonely anymore. Morgan was sitting, and then heard Lot's heartfelt voice. She glanced at him unexpectedly. Does this dog feel lonely? She turned her head and looked at the table. Well, it is true. He was the only one eating here before, so it is inevitable to feel lonely. Well, but it's okay. From the next on, I will eat with you. In the next time, I will accompany you to become the Lord of Britain. Glory and victory will always be with us. Also, we will have many children, and you will never be lonely again. Looking at Lot and looking at his face, Morgan suddenly felt that his future child should be an absolute handsome and beautiful woman. His face became a little red. Lot glanced at Morgan's expression. Hello, what are you doing with a sympathetic expression? What am I to sympathize with? Shouldn't you wait for the food to be brought up and look at your unseen face before you show sympathy? Is our order reversed? Also, why did you suddenly turn red? I don't know. I thought I was drugged. Lot was completely puzzled. But at this time, the maids had already brought supper, making Lot's depressed moment wiped out. Morgan, come and taste these, he said to Morgan. Several classic Chinese dishes are placed on the table. Roast duck, 6 meatballs, sweet and sour pork ribs. Although Lot was an attacker in his previous life, he still cooked for himself because he was not used to eating takeaways. After coming to this era, after eating British food for several days, he finally broke out, let me do it myself. Later he also fished out a Chinese food recipe, a large and thick book. The catalogue is faster than the one with more British recipes. In this era, there is no need to worry that the cook has the guts to escape, so Lot can be said to have taught these cooking skills. So after his teaching, the level of cooks in Lot Castle is really good. It is still possible to make a decent set of Chinese food. And these cooks also know that I saw it today. Morgan saw these foods. All of them looked like she hadn't seen them before. She reached out and picked up the chopsticks. Well, dishes that I haven't seen, tableware that I haven't seen yet. Are these customs of Lot's side? But I have never heard of any famous food in Orkney. Well, forget it. These look good. It should taste good. So Morgan stretched out his chopsticks, then picked up a piece of sweet and sour pork ribs and tentatively placed it in his mouth. The sweet and sour taste bloomed in the mouth in an instant. Very delicious. Morgan wanted to show joy, but at this time, she heard Lot's heartbeat again. Well, she ate it, and ate it. Now, just look at her expression, that is so happy that she can't help herself. Hey, Morgan, who looked at the queen, showed such an expression. I am still looking forward to it. What is the appearance of a queen? I will be the queen in the future, okay? This dog, can you speak? If you talk like this, it's easy to have no friends, okay? Also, what are you guys expecting? Want to see me show an expression of disappointment? Humphrey, I won't. You dog, it is absolutely impossible to look at my expression. Well, it's okay, Morgan said blankly. Then she took a small bite very gracefully, and after she finished eating, she picked up another vegetable dish and put it in her mouth. She just wanted to show Lot that your food is average. It's no different from other foods. Although, Lot's food is really delicious. Morgan struggled to control the transfer of his own will. When she wanted to come, this meat is indeed good, so I will eat a little vegetarian food. I will not be so good. Well, I'm still very witty. But after she put the stir-fried vegetables in her mouth, she instantly felt a crisp taste in her mouth squeaking. In this era, let alone this British island, even in China at the same time, there is no such cooking skill. After eating it, Morgan suddenly felt that his expression was a little uncontrollable. But thinking about Lot's psychology, she felt that she shouldn't admit defeat. This, on the one hand, it is very comfortable, and on the other hand, it is necessary to exercise restraint. Morgan felt as if he was suffering. Lot looked at Morgan as if he was holding something, and asked wonderingly, "What's wrong with you? Is it because the food is not delicious?" "No, it's delicious," Morgan continued to say without expression. "Then look at your face." "This is a trivial matter," Morgan said lightly. Then, she continued to maintain an extremely calm expression and ate all the dishes while ensuring that each food was tasted a small bite. After eating, she stood up blankly. "Okay, I'm finished." "Lot, I'm really tired this way, so I want to take a break first," Morgan said to Lot. "Oh, all right. I'll let the maid take you to the resting place first." Lot looked at Morgan's expression, feeling a bit strange, but he couldn't say anything, so he had to let Morgan wash and rest first. Morgan was led by the maid and walked towards the bedroom. But in the process of walking, her heart was bleeding. "Those things, the first time I went to eat, I didn't eat enough at all. But if you really feast on it, you must be despised by Lot's lustful dog. I do not want it. Just bear with it today. Anyway, there is still a long time to come. From now on, I will be the hostess of this castle, and I can eat these foods anytime, anywhere. I'll try one more at that time," Morgan thought in his heart. On the other side, Lot was also a little puzzled after watching Morgan walk in. He picked up the chopsticks, picked up a piece and put it in his mouth. "This is no different from the previous one," he said suspiciously. Chapter 10 Squeeze him clean. Second more. There had been news of the engagement before, so Orkney had already prepared. The necessary ceremonies were almost ready when Lot and Morgan came back. Lot and Morgan didn't stay at home for long, and many nobles from Camelot came here by appointment. And on this morning, the most important person of the whole wedding finally arrived. As soon as he got up that morning, Lot heard his butler say to him in a reporting tone, "Your Majesty, King Camelot, Princess Morgan's father, King Yaus, has arrived at the gate of the castle." Morgan's father, Lot's future father-in-law, King Uther, Lord of Camelot, finally came here today after a long journey. "Ah, I get it." Lot hesitated when he heard Joe say this, then nodded. Then, he felt a little nervous. "In this past and present life, this is the first time I have met with my old husband. If this does not perform well, what will happen is that it is really bad to say." With this feeling, Lot's clothes slowed down. He always wears clothes by himself. This is not to say how noble his ethics is, and he is not accustomed to the service of others. The main thing is that in his castle, the maids are all the kind who do good work and can run horses on their arms. Such a maid came to serve him and put on clothes. Lot felt that this was not a maid serving the nobles, but the aunt was dressing his son who had not grown up. Therefore, Lot directly rejected these. Now only Lot, who didn't know how to face his old man, slowly put on his clothes. Finally, he changed his clothes. White bottom shirt embroidered with patterns, trousers close to the legs. "Because I saw my old husband. He didn't wear a knight's armor, but changed into an aristocratic dress embroidered with family patterns." The blonde was neatly groomed, put on white gloves on both hands, smiled slightly, showing a charming temperament towards the opposite sex. He didn't walk far in the castle. He happened to see Morgan also rushed outside. Morgan also changed his clothes. Noble evening dress, slender high heels with crystals at the feet. The long silver hair was braided into a neat hairstyle, and there was a black bow on it. Noble, but very kind in Lot's eyes. Morgan saw Lot and immediately said, "Lot, we just met together. Let's go, let's meet my father together." "Okay." Lot nodded absently. Looking at his expression, Morgan felt a little strange. "Isn't this guy very good at talking in front of me? Why is it wilting now?" Thinking of this in her heart, she heard Lot's voice. "What to do? What to do? Ask online. See the old husband." "How should I say hello in the first sentence? Should I ask him if he ate it, or ask your old surname? What should you say?" For the first time, I really don't know what to do." Puff chuff. Morgan didn't hold back, and laughed straight out. Lot looked at Morgan, with a slightly angry expression in his eyes. "Damn, you even laughed at me." Morgan looked at Lot like this, and said quickly, "Okay. Don't worry, my father doesn't know how to eat people. There is nothing to be afraid of seeing him. Come on, I'll stay by your side. He will be fine, yeah. Besides, it's too late for him to see you happy." In addition to being very resourceful in his heart, Lot also had a good skin. Morgan always wondered if all the good-looking factors of Orkney fell on Lot alone. Otherwise, how could he see this like this? It is estimated to be even more handsome than the legendary Dulumido of Scotland. Seeing him, Morgan believed that neither his father nor anyone else would feel angry. "Okay, all right." Lot nodded slightly. The mood is also a little relaxed. Afterwards, the two held hands and walked out. Morgan glanced at Lot again to see what his mood was like at the moment. "Well, don't be nervous, don't be nervous." Morgan is already on his side at this moment. There is nothing to be afraid of anymore. Morgan smiled. "I have to say that Lot is really interesting. With him in the future, at least I won't worry about being unhappy. Of course, it would be better if you were more motivated." After getting along for several days, Morgan finally figured out Lot's character. She looks so good, and her wisdom is so good, but this is lazy. That is really lazy. He has a very clear understanding of the future situation, but it is difficult for him to think about what to do. He just likes to do things around very delicately. In other words, it's just covetousness. This makes Morgan very dissatisfied. "You are so good, why don't you have a little lofty ambition?" Morgan felt that he was here just to let his ingenuity come into play. It is too easy to manage your own life. At least you have to give full play to all of Britain, right? Come on, Morgan, you must be able to squeeze him dry. Well, drain his ingenuity. Morgan took Lot's hand and walked outside. When they came outside, Morgan and Lot met a team of cavaliers. At the front are two men. One of them, Lot could see from a long distance, Beimau's Netrix Merlin. In the other middle-aged man, it is estimated that he is King Yusuf. Morgan is a big beauty, and his other daughter, Aldria, is also beautiful and heroic. As the father of these two men, of course he looked very handsome in his early years, although it is much worse than us. Lot thought happily in his heart. While standing next to him, Morgan couldn't help but glance at him. "This guy, can you have a face? Although, you are telling the truth. But, anyhow, it's also my father." And here, King Arthur looked at Lot with a satisfied expression. "So handsome." He walked down, and then said to Lot, "King Lot, I am here this time to give my daughter to your hands. From now on, we will be a family." Then, He saw the two people holding hands, with a teasing expression on their faces. Hearing him say this, both Lot and Morgan were a little embarrassed.